In May 2023, President Bola Tinubu declared an end to fuel subsidies, a move hailed as bold and fiscally responsible. The goal was to cut trillions in subsidy spending and reduce reliance on borrowing. 2 years later, however, the government is turning to fresh loans and credit facilities to cushion the economic impact of that very decision. While officials argue the removal has freed funds for capital projects, critics call it a fiscal paradox. They point to palliatives, wage hikes, and transport programs, all funded through borrowing. Join us now to examine this complex economic and political reality are financial expert Alesta Wilcox and public affairs analyst Professor Simeon Nnah. Gentlemen, thank you so much, or gentlemen rather, thank you so much for joining me at this point in time. Now, 2 years ago, the government said ending fuel subsidies would stop the bleeding and reduce our need to borrow. But now we're borrowing again to manage the fallout. How do you make sense of that? I'll start with you, Alesta Wilcox.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. I think there is no direct nexus between government borrowing and the fuel subsidy removal. Unfortunately, the government is not releasing too many information to the people as to the exact needs as to why they borrow. Now, borrowing is not an economic bad policy, because every country borrows. If you have critical areas you want to channel, you are borrowing to, other than consumption. Now, when fuel subsidy was removed, we have seen, and then the float of that, which are the two policies that this government came in with on their first day of assumption. We have seen that government income has grown tremendously. When I mean tremendously, if you look at what the FAC, what is shared at the FAC every month, you discover that we are now going to, for last month, I think it was 1.8 trillion naira. That is the effect of those freeing up, because before now, a large chunk of that money will have been used to import and subsidize fuel. A large chunk of that money will have been used to defend the naira. So government revenue, which is shared among the three tiers of government, as a matter of fact, the state government in the month of June received over 600 billion, while local governments received over 400 billion. So the totality of the two tiers of government was about 1.1 trillion naira in 1 month. So those are the effects. Now, if the federal government is borrowing, they should be able to tell Nigerians what exactly they are borrowing for. Now, I know that there are some projects for which they borrow money for. And don't forget, government revenue does not come at once. They come in trickles. For instance, they come in monthly basis, they come on weekly basis, and on daily basis. So sometimes it's not really easy for government to have the kind of actual money they need for certain projects. So they say it's not a borrowing, but the good news is that right now they have a better capacity of servicing those loans, because there's a lot of freeing up of funds that was hitherto being consumed by the fuel subsidy. Now, I'm not holding proof for government as to if they have actually invested or actually used the gains to really touch the life of everyone. Like, for instance, the infrastructure we are talking about. For me, I think they've not, because right now, what is happening is that there is still more consumption. The federal government received about close to 700 billion in the month of May. So one should expect that Nigerians should feel more of this money in their lives, as in some of the capital projects that we are seeing. But unfortunately, we are not. And also the state governments too, and the local governments that are receiving very, very high income now, high allocation from the FAC. One should have expected that there should be more activities at the state level in terms of health care, in terms of education. But unfortunately, Nigerians, I am not feeling it. And I'm sure most Nigerians, they are not feeling it too. So, but as far as borrowing is concerned, there is no direct nexus between having removed fuel subsidy and ability of government to borrow if they need bulk funds to finance certain critical projects.
All right, Alesta, thank you so much of course, for answering that question. I'm going to come back to you with a question, but let me move over now to Professor Nnah. The public was told fuel subsidy removal would free up money for development. But for many Nigerians, all they see are, higher prices and no visible benefits. Has the government lost the narrative here?
You answered your question. They've actually lost the narrative. They have actually lost the narrative. Because at the beginning, we are told that once the subsidy is removed, they have enough funds to do so many things. And we agree with them that since they are saying that the subsidy is being given to a few and the Nigerians are suffering for it, and the country is even borrowing to subsidize. Now, when the subsidy is removed, we don't need to borrow the money we get from subsidy. And I learned from economists that we have saved up to $20 billion from fuel subsidy alone. Why are we still borrowing? See, let us call a spade a spade. When this administration started, the twin policy they came up with, removal of subsidy and floating of the naira, was an IMF project. And the IMF conditionalities is what put us to this mess. And they have continued. Recall that at a point, the government paid off the loan they were owing. And we thought that was a good thing for us. But we are told that they are going to be paying the interest for another 20-something years or 30 years. And that has enabled them to borrow more money. So what they eventually did was to pay off that loan so that they can borrow more. And in less than 3-4 months, they have asked the Senate to make provision for them to borrow, not just in dollars, to borrow dollar, borrow euro, borrow yuan, and even in naira. So I don't know where this government is headed. The masses are suffering. You are making the governors rich because you want them to vote for you in 2027. That's what all this is all about. That's what it's all about.
Professor,
why all of them are moving to APC. Yeah.
Professor, do you think the government, do you think the government underestimated just how much economic pain this decision would have caused, or did they just fail to prepare for it properly?
They failed to prepare for it properly. And it's not as if they don't know, because even the head of state has called the governors and told them to make the masses feel the impact of the money they are receiving, because they are receiving triple what they were receiving before. But watch it. Anytime they go and collect that fact share, 2-3 days later, the cost of dollar will rise in the market. They just go and change the money to dollar. The remaining one, they pay salaries and what have you. Do 1 or 2 kilometers of roads and use another 10 billion or 10 point something to advertise it on radio, television, take front page on newspapers to advertise a 10-kilometer road. That's what they are doing. In 21st century, they are using road as an achievement where people are dying. I don't understand.
All right, let me come back to you. Let me come back to you, Alesta Wilcox. Now we've seen loans used for palliatives. We've seen it being used for wage increase and now even transport schemes. Is this smart fiscal cushioning, or is this just a short-term damage control that's kicking, and that's kicking down the road basically? What's your reaction to that?
Well, none of them, for me, makes sense. That's the truth. The problem is that our macroeconomics and the microeconomics indices of this country is a bit faulty, and we've never gotten it right. Despite the fact, you will see that today, despite the fact in stability, I'm sure my colleague, my co-panelist is a professor of economics, and so you will understand what I'm trying to raise. I'm not beyond my BS economics, but I know that the macro and the microeconomic indices in this country is stable in a long while now. Interest rate has been stable. The value of the dollar has been stable. The fluctuation is not as it used to be before. So one would have expected that with such stability in the macro and the microeconomic indices, there should be some reflection in the policy, in the price modulation of the country. But of course, it doesn't happen that way in Black Africa. Our own economic model is totally different, and unfortunately, the policymakers do not look at that. Now, when we talk about government, most often than not, all of our focus is on the federal government. But that is, again, where the missing link comes, because we all blame the federal government for every economic woes in the country. Meanwhile, we have 3 tiers of government that are sub-independent and receive massive allocations. Massive. I just give a breakdown. In the month of June alone, the state government received a total of over 600 billion, excluding their own IGR. Of course, you know what Lagos gets in IGR every month. It's even, something that most countries do not get. So we do not put pressure on the state government to do the needful. Like I said, the macro and the microeconomic indices in Nigeria has been stable over time, especially with respect to those parameters that affects inflation, affects price modulation. Talking about interest rate, the value of the dollars and the value of the currency, and other indices, taxation. Those things have, the government has done a lot to bring about stability in those areas. But even the so-called fuel price, fuel that was removed today, we are seeing a kind of self-regulated competition that it goes up today, it comes down. In fact, I'm talking from Ibadan. First, sells for 859 in Ibadan, even higher than what it is in Lagos. But of course, because of our inherent nature, it don't translate. And government cannot legislate price. Government cannot go to everybody's doorstep and start telling them, no, you must sell our goods and services at this level. Because we don't have a strong market market system or strong economic market system in Africa. I was in Ghana a few days ago, the same complaint they were making. The value of their currency appreciated by over 25-30%. But the prices on the street is still indicative of what has been some months back. So they are complaining and they are asking the question. So what is the benefit of such appreciation of the currency when it's not reflecting on the pricing level? So Africa needs to think outside the box, other than this Bretton Woods system of using those Bretton Woods macro and microeconomics as the basis of running the economy. Africa as a whole, we need to think, because our own system is not the book economies. Until we understand the street economy, then we will not make much progress. So we must put some pressure on the state and the local government, because this is where production takes place, like food and other basic things, transportation.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Alesta Wilcox, and of course, Professor Nnah. Now, I'm not done talking to both of you. I'd love to hear your final thoughts, but that's after this break. You're still watching News Now on News Central. Stay with us. Man, thanks for staying with us. Yes, before we went on that break, I was having a conversation with 2 individuals, a professor of economics, Professor Nnah, and also a financial expert, Alesta Wilcox. Gentlemen, let me just get your final thoughts on this subsidy issue in 1 minute. I'm going to start with you, Alesta Wilcox.
As far as this subsidy issue is concerned, it has come to stay, and it will stay. Now, what we have to do is to put more pressure on government to be more open, to be more transparent in the dealings with Nigerians as to whatever loans they are taking, what is this specifically meant for. And then also to hold government accountable, because now what we see is frivolities. There's no financial there's no financial discipline in terms of at government level, both federal, state, and local government. If the Minister of FCT can use 39 billion to renovate a conference center, when there are so many things that needed funds, then that will tell you the negative priorities that these massive funds are being injected to. And the same thing we find all across states and local government. So there must be better accountability on the part of government at all levels to be more disciplined, and then make sure that Nigerians see better dividends from whatever pains that we are all going through collectively as a people.
All right, thank you so much. Let's hear from you, Professor Nnah. Your final thoughts, please.
Let me correct having said that, you see, my co-discussant talking of the macroeconomic indices. At what exchange rate? See, the economy has a price, and that is why prices cannot come down. The cost of that affects including the market, because the way that is going to benefit us, the farmers can't even go to farms again because of insecurity. So at the end of the day, you'll find out that even the money that government is borrowing, he said that government all over the world borrows. Yes, I agree. But government don't borrow to consume. They don't borrow to pay salaries. Government borrow to invest so that you can get more revenue. But in our own case, we borrow to consume. That's why this economy is not heading anywhere. We make so much money, what have we used the money for? Rather, we are borrowing more. And when government, like you said, there's no sincerity from the part of government. He's talking of 3 tiers of government. As far as I'm concerned, we have 2 tiers of government because the local government is not functioning. The president signed an executive bill. The governors went to courts. The courts agreed that local government should be autonomous. As we speak, local government is still not autonomous. They are still the appendage of state governors. So we have 2 tiers of government. The 3rd tier is not functioning. The governor just collect the money, give them to pay salaries and small pocket money and pocket the rest. That's what has been happening. We make laws, there are no penalties for those laws. Why must these governors, if they have immunity, does it mean that they cannot obey laws any longer? I don't understand any longer. Government should make sure that laws are made and obeyed. And when they are taking this law request to National Assembly, they should be able to tell National Assembly how much they are using for what projects, not just mention figures, and they approve for them, they bring in the money and stock it for the next election.
Gentlemen, for having this conversation with me, and I hope you join me some other time.